I used to believe the game. I consumed it. I shared it. I built a channel on it. Be cold. Build leverage. Never trust. Control everything. They called it power. They called it survival. I called it wisdom, until I met a man who had every reason to become a monster and chose not to. And that choice didn't cost him everything. It won him everything. His name was Joseph, and he lived 4,000 years before dark psychology had a name, and he already knew it was a lie. This is why I left. And this is what I found on the other side. Let me be honest with you about what dark psychology actually does to you. It finds you at your lowest. Maybe you were betrayed by a friend. Maybe someone you gave everything to walked away without looking back. Maybe you worked hard, played fair, stayed loyal, and watched someone with no integrity pass you on the way up. And in that moment of pain, that content reached its hand out and said, I'll show you why that happened. I'll show you how the world really works. And it felt like waking up. Felt like finally seeing clearly. But here's what it actually did. It took your wound, which was real, and instead of healing it, it handed you a weapon made from it. It said, the world is full of wolves, so become the wolf. It said, people will always betray you, so betray them first. Quietly, strategically, with a smile. It said, hide your pain, build leverage, control every room you walk into. And maybe you followed it. Maybe you got good at it. But somewhere along the way, something went quiet inside you. The warmth, the ability to enjoy a moment without analyzing it, the capacity to trust without calculating the risk. You got harder, and the world didn't get better. It just got lonelier. That's not power. That's a prison with no visible bars. Now let me tell you about Joseph. Not as a Sunday school story, as a psychological case study in what real strength looks like under maximum pressure. Joseph was the favored son of Jacob, and his brothers hated him for it. Not the mild, I'm a little jealous kind of hate, the kind of hate that plans, the kind that waits for the right moment. One day, far from home, his brothers seized him. They stripped him of his coat, his identity, his father's favor, everything that marked him as chosen. They threw him into a pit, and then, while he was down there, they sat down and had a meal. They ate while he begged. Then they sold him to strangers, 20 pieces of silver. Now, if you had written a dark psychology script about Joseph at that moment, it would have said, you've just learned the first truth. The people closest to you are your greatest threat. Blood means nothing. Loyalty is a fairy tale. From this day forward, trust no one. Build leverage. Become unreadable. Become dangerous. And who could blame him? That betrayal was complete. It came from his own family. The people who were supposed to be his shield became his wound. But Joseph didn't go dark. Not because he was naive, not because he was weak, but because he understood something. The dark psychology system never could. Your response to betrayal becomes your character, and your character becomes your destiny. Joseph arrived in Egypt as a slave. He had nothing, no leverage, no network, no image to craft, no power to seize. Dark psychology would have failed him here completely. You can't build leverage when you own nothing. You can't control the room, and you're the lowest person in it. But Joseph had something the system doesn't teach. Integrity that didn't depend on circumstances. He served Potiphar with everything he had, not to gain leverage, not to manipulate his way to the top, but because excellence was simply who he was, and it was noticed. He rose. He was trusted with everything. Then came the second betrayal. Potiphar's wife lied about him, falsely accused him. And this time, the cost was prison, not just loss of status chains. a cell, years of his life in darkness for something he didn't do. This is where most people would have broken. This is where bitterness would have taken root and called itself wisdom. This is where the cold philosophy would have finally made sense. See? You did everything right. You were honest, loyal, excellent. And look where it got you. The world doesn't reward integrity. It punishes it.
But the remarkable thing about Joseph,
the thing that makes him one of the most psychologically studied figures, is that prison didn't change him either. He kept serving. He interpreted dreams. He helped people even when he had no reason to expect anything in return. And the cupbearer forgot him for 2 full years. After Joseph helped him, Joseph didn't collapse into cynicism. He waited. He remained himself. Joseph isn't alone in this pattern. History is full of people who faced maximum betrayal and chose character over coldness, and won because of it, not in spite of it. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison
fighting injustice.
Every dark psychology principle would have told him to emerge calculating, manipulative, consumed by revenge. He had leverage over an entire nation's guilt. He could have weaponized it. Instead, he built the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He chose restoration over retaliation. And he didn't just win power, he won history. His name stands for something permanent. Names of those who imprisoned him are footnotes.
Abraham Lincoln was mocked, underestimated,
and dismissed by nearly everyone around him. His political rivals called him incompetent. He appointed many of them to his cabinet anyway, not out of naivety, but out of the confidence that comes from deep character. He didn't need to diminish them to lead them. Horace Kearns Goodwin called it a team of rivals, and it won a war and preserved a nation. Edmond Dantes, yes, a fictional character, but one of literature's most honest explorations. In The Count of Monte Cristo, Alexandre Dumas builds a man destroyed by betrayal. Who does choose the dark path? He builds leverage. He crafts his image. He controls people's desires
and engineers their downfall with cold precision.
And Dumas, being the honest writer he was, shows you the cost. Dantes wins every battle and loses himself. By the end, he questions whether the victory
was worth the man he had to become.
Even fiction knows the dark psychology playbook is a losing trade. Joseph never made that trade. Here is where I want to be direct with you about what I now believe. The dark psychology system produces results that look like strength from the outside,
but look at the internal harvest.
It actually grows in the person who lives by those rules.
Control produces exhaustion.
You cannot sustain the performance. Constant strategic management of every relationship. It is cognitively and emotionally depleting. Studies on emotional suppression consistently show that people who maintain strategic masks experience higher cortisol levels and worse decision-making. The armor costs you. Leverage produces loneliness. When every relationship is transactional, you lose the capacity for genuine connection. And genuine connection is the single greatest predictor of a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. Not wealth, not status, not power. Connection. Manipulation produces contempt. Every time you successfully pull someone's strings, you lose a little more respect for them. And when you cannot respect the people around you, you cannot respect yourself. The worldview consumes itself.
The fruits of Joseph's character:
patience, integrity, compassion, forgiveness, service.
Those produced something entirely different.
They produced Pharaoh's trust, not because Joseph seized it, because he earned it so thoroughly that it couldn't be taken away. They produced reconciliation with his brothers, not weakness, but the most powerful act in the entire story. When Joseph finally revealed himself to the brothers who sold him, he wept. He didn't leverage their guilt. He didn't punish them strategically. He said, "You intended to harm me,
but God intended it for good."
That sentence is the most psychologically advanced thing in the entire narrative. It is the complete reframe. Not denial of the pain, not naivety, but a refusal to let betrayal define the trajectory. That is post-traumatic growth. In 4,000-year-old text, why did I leave dark psychology? Because I realized it was teaching people to win battles while losing the war, to gain rooms while losing themselves, to build walls so thick that nothing could hurt them, and nothing could reach them either. It found people in their pain and gave them ideology instead of healing. Joseph's story gave me something different. It gave me a model of a man who went through more genuine betrayal
than most of us will ever face, and came out of it not harder, but deeper.
Not colder, but wiser. Not more controlled, but more free. He didn't win because he was strategic. He won because he was whole. And that wholeness built on character,
on integrity that didn't bend under pressure, on values that didn't shift when circumstances got dark.
That is what I want to build here. Not a system for controlling people. A path for knowing yourself so well that you cannot be controlled, not leverage over others. Roots so deep that no storm moves you. Not a crafted image. A real identity. The kind that God looked at in a shepherd boy and said, "I have found a man after my own heart." Not the strongest, not the most strategic, the most real. The world will still have wolves. I'm not going to lie to you about that. People will still betray you. Circumstances will still be unfair. There will still be pits and false accusations and years that feel like prison. But Joseph shows us that the pit is not the end of the story, that the prison is not your identity, that what was meant to destroy you can become the thing that positions you to save others. That is light psychology, not naivety, not weakness, not blind trust in everyone.
Wisdom, discernment, character that holds under pressure.
Values that don't negotiate with darkness. The fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are not soft virtues. They are the hardest things a human being can cultivate, and they produce something no dark psychology tactic ever has. A life you're proud of. People who genuinely love you. A legacy that outlasts you. Joseph didn't just survive Egypt. He saved it. What could you save if you stopped trying to win the dark game and started playing the right one? That's what we're building here.
Every video, every truth, every story.
Welcome to Light Psychology.